Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalat wassalam ala Rasul al-Karim wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our class. Okay, we stopped on ayat 18. Okay, we stopped on ayat 18 of Surah Scattering Winds, Scatterers. Okay, and it is the 51st, is the 27th Juz, 51st Surah, Adhariyat. So we mentioned yesterday about the believers and their expectations from Allah, and those who disbelieve and their expectations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ended there where they mentioned paradise, and they mentioned the activities of the believers. What are the characteristics of the believers in this earth? And one of those characteristics that Allah mentioned is praying extra at night. Okay, and that is a supererogatory action. It's not a compulsory action. But Allah mentioned it because of its usefulness in building character, and its usefulness in building your faith, as a Muslim. Its usefulness in realizing a proper outcome in your life, be it you might be under pressure, or you might be under opposition in your life. People might be plotting against you, or people might just be taking advantage of you, and you seek help in Allah. Okay? So we'll continue from verse 18. Let's travel along and see what else we can learn from this surah. Bismillah.
وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون.
And in the hours before dawn, they would ask forgiveness.
وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم.
And from their properties was given the right of the needy petitioner and the deprived.
Okay, this thing about seeking forgiveness, we must remember what Allah is pointing out here is that we seek forgiveness when we do not fulfill the rights of Allah. There are two rights. There's the rights of Allah on you. You hear Muslims saying that it's the haqq of Allah on you. This means the rights of Allah on you. And we have the other one is the rights of mankind. Okay, so when we do not carry out certain commandments that Allah asks us to carry out, we seek forgiveness, from that. We make tawbah. Okay? And these pertains to the rights of Allah. Now, if you wrong a Muslim, another person, okay, you say like you wrong a person, going to Allah to ask him forgiveness for wronging that person is not the proper procedure, because that refers to the rights of humanity. So you have to seek that person forgiveness first. Then you ask Allah, forgiveness. Okay, this is very important because some people, they wrong another person, and if you speak to them, they say, "Well, I don't make tawbah for that already. I don't ask Allah forgiveness for that already." Yeah, but have you sought the forgiveness of the person? You see, because on the day of judgment, this person can ask for his rights. He or she can ask for their rights on the day of judgment. Tell Allah, this person wronged me and they never sought my forgiveness. So, I want my right against them today. So that is why it's very important that when you wrong somebody, okay, you go to that person and you try to make it up with them. And don't feel that just because you cry and you make tawbah, that it finished. The matter is not finished. The matter is only finished when that person forgive you. So we must remember that there are two rights: the rights of Allah and the rights of mankind. So this here is referring to the rights of Allah. Any shortcomings we have in our deen, okay, this is what we ask forgiveness for. Shortcomings in our fasting, in our zakat, in our conduct, and Allah asks us not to lie, not to do this, not to do that. These are the rights, these are the haqq that Allah has on you that you must fulfill. So this here is very important. And we know one of the shortest du'as for forgiveness is astaghfirullah. I seek the forgiveness of Allah. And there are also other long ones, that you can learn from the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ. There are a lot of du'as, but the shortest one is I seek astaghfirullah, may Allah, I seek the forgiveness of Allah. And then ayat 19, and it continues. And these people, what is the other characteristics of these people who will enter the Jannah? It said that in their wealth, what Allah has given them. Allah has not given everybody the same amount of wealth. Right? So Allah, in the Quran says that in their wealth, what Allah has given you, in your capacity, right? They assign or they pay out to the beggars and those who are deprived. That is, there are some people who don't beg, who don't ask. Okay? That you don't wait for them to ask. Okay? So the wealth you have is a wealth also to help the poor. And we know there's a compulsory wealth tax, which is called zakat. It is compulsory. Okay? And there's a non-compulsory wealth tax called sadaqah. Sometimes in the Quran, Allah uses sadaqah for zakat. Sometimes. But both of them means charity or wealth tax. So you use your wealth to help others. And this is the type of welfare society that Islam has. This is the type of welfare community that Islam has. That we are supposed, I wouldn't say we look out for, we are supposed to be looking out for each other. Okay? We are not supposed to be hoarding our wealth. Because when we hoard our wealth, it will not be blessed. And our wealth also helps to to keep the ties of relationship. Your family. You help them because the first zakat is towards your family. I mean, the first sadaqah, sorry, is towards your family. And then once you satisfy that, then to other people outside. So these measures helps to maintain the ties of relationship. It strengthens the ties of relationship when people look out for each other. And especially in times of economic hardship. As Muslims, we are supposed to be looking out for each other. I say suppose because a lot of time we miss the mark. Some of us see our wealth as, like my money, It's your money, yes. But in that money, there's a compulsory zakat. And there's encouragement for voluntary sadaqah. And these are the things that will shield you from the fire on the day of judgment. Okay? And the Prophet ﷺ said that charity does not decrease wealth. Giving charity does not decrease your wealth. We might think so, boy, I give all this charity, I ain't got no money. Charity does not decrease your wealth. It increases your wealth. But you might not understand in what way and to what extent that it does. We continue.
وفي الأرض آيات للموقنين.
And on the earth are signs for the certain in faith.
وفي أنفسكم أفلا تبصرون.
And in yourselves, then will you not see?
Okay. So Allah says in Ayat 21, and in the earth. Okay, in this earth that we live, because he left off talking about the sky, the galactical heaven, okay, or what we call space. And then he comes back to the conversation, and he says that in the earth, the planet that which we live on, which means in the mountains, in the seas, in the plants, in the fruits, our whole existence in this earth, there are signs. Okay? How do we understand this? There are indications. Signs means indication of Allah's power. Glory be to him, and exalted is he, and of his oneness. Okay? There's a manifestation that there is a power behind all of this. The way things work, the existence of mountains and trees and fruits, and every place that men and women live, Allah has provided sustenance. You mightn't be able to live there, but the people who live there, Allah has provided sustenance for those people. It might be a little difficult, but people, as they say, eke a living from those places. And those who don't, they trade, they buy and sell. Okay, they buy and sell. So Allah says that in all of these things, it is a sign for you. It's an indication that we can learn if we are observant. Right? And all of them indicate the oneness of Allah. Because if there was more than one God, okay, then each God will guard his creation, right? But we don't see a conflict in creation. We see a oneness in creation. We see a unity in creation. We see a smooth runnings, as they say. Okay, and we can learn. So if you notice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always point us to the things that wrong us, to the things that we take for granted. For the things that, what we may call mundane, it's everyday, zabuka or avocado, but we don't take it further, and we are supposed to take these things further, so which means that as a Muslim, we have to be conscious of our environment. Also, part of this is we are to maintain our environment, because when you dump rubbish in your environment, it creates a negative, it impacts on you in a negative way. Okay, so we are turned off because somebody has polluted the natural way of life, and therefore as a Muslim we're supposed to maintain our surroundings, because when we maintain our surroundings in the way that they are as much as possible, then it becomes easier for us to reflect on our surroundings. But if we pollute our surroundings, then we will not have any energy or any vibes to really look at our circumstances and look at the creation among us and derive benefit. Right? Because it has been clouded by all these various rubbish and waste, that is not even healthy for us. And then Allah says, for those who know with certainty. So looking upon the world and looking upon the signs that the world has, all of these things help create certainty in our hearts. And I mentioned yesterday that the word certainty is yaqeen. Okay? We are where our hearts are contented with Islam. We used to say in the past, we are pleased with Allah as our Lord. Prophet Muhammad Islam as our prophet. And Islam as our deen. That is something that we used to say in our former organization. It was part of the training, that we developed. We had programs to develop you as a person. Spiritually, we had programs to develop you as a follower of the Prophet Muhammad Islam. And we had programs for teaching the deen. And all these things are important. And even that these things that happened years ago, I still remember a lot of them. Why? Because it is a program. Okay, when somebody leaves the dunya and come in Islam, they are supposed to put themselves on a program. Okay, remember, you live in a particular way for 18 years, 19 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years. And when you become a Muslim now, you have to change the script, which means you have to reprogram yourself, because you have inculcated things that has become habitual. It becomes a habit now. Disbelief has become a habit. So now you have to make Iman a habit. And you have to push all the kufr piece by piece. Right? And ayah 21, and in your souls, in yourself, and fusi, in yourself, and fusikum, in yourself, in our makeup as human beings, there are signs. Okay, from the beginning of our creation, from Adam, and that first creation, and then the secondary creation in the wombs of our mother, and how things came together, childbirth, infant stage, then we have teenage stage and then going to elder stage. So in our lives, we are supposed to gain knowledge from it, take signs from it. So all of this points to a very conscious human being. Not everything is everything. This is a real conscious human being. He's in tune with the creation around him. He's in tune with Allah. He's in tune with the message that the Prophet ﷺ, in tune with the Quran. He's in tune with himself, with his neighbors, those who are deprived. Okay, he helps them. Okay, he identifies with their suffering. Okay, so all of these things exist around us and in us. And then Allah said, will you not then perceive? Will you not then see? So Allah is saying in a rhetorical way, so after all of that, you still not seeing, you're blind to yourself. You're blind to this guidance, that this guidance is a natural way of life. If you take time and you follow the guidance, it's a natural way of life. How come you're not seeing this thing? How come you're not perceiving it? Okay, when you perceive something, you not just look at it at a glance. Perceive means that you draw knowledge from it. You understand it. Okay, so how come you're not perceiving it? How come you're not perceiving about the existence of Allah and the existence of His power? The existence that He being Rabbul Alameen, the Lord, creator and sustainer of human beings. He sustains us. And He brings us from stage to stage. That's why the correct word for education in Islam is tarbiyah. You train somebody, you bring them from stage to stage. This is how Allah trained the human being. And spiritually too, Allah bring you from stage to stage. So all of these things is Allah points to our consciousness as Muslims. So we continue.
وفي السماء رزقكم وما توعدون.
And in the heaven is your provision and whatever you are promised.
فورب السماء والأرض إنه لحق مثل ما أنكم تنطقون.
Then by the Lord of the heaven and earth, indeed, it is truth, just as sure as it is that you are speaking.
Okay, so Allah continues to say that in the heavens is your provisions, because we know that the whole process of providing provisions on the earth, the whole process of photosynthesis and the whole process of water and the whole process of sunlight and how all these things come together to contribute towards the growing of plants, the growing of grass, and the growing of flowers that supply the bees with honey, and honey there's a lot of benefits for mankind in honey. There's a lot of benefits in the grass from herbs that can cure mankind, herbs that can grow animals. Look how big and strong a cow is eating grass. I doubt if you eat grass that you get so big. Right? But Allah fitting creation into different things. Right? We have to strive to to have a balanced diet for us to grow, which means we have proteins, iron, minerals, all these different things we have to take, vitamins, But in the grass, I'll put everything in the grass for the cow and the horse, all those animals that eat grass and stuff like that. And in the grass, in the herbs, there are herbs that are medicines for us. I mean, a lot of people like to talk down on herbs, right? And they talk about, it's modern science and things. Yeah, but the medication that we have, where does modern science get it from? They get it from the world, the creation around us, plants, animals, and minerals. This is where they get it from. There's no special part of the world only just for science. No, there's a certain allergy in the a certain plant like it's a plant like substance in the sea, and they get certain medications, from that. Okay, from the poison of the snake, we get anti-poison. So if a snake bites you, they inject you with a similar poison that the snake bit you, and these two poisons clash. And when they clash, you are cured. So don't let them fool you, right? But the thing with herbs is that it's a science, and some people feel it's just a boil that bush, and no. There's a science. Okay, that if you take in this bush, you take another bush with it to bring out the qualities of that bush, of that herbs you want to take. And if you don't use the other herbs to bring out the quality, then it will take longer for you to heal. And then you say, well, this bush medicine and it's pseudo. No, it is also a science. You have to know how to prepare the concoction, how to prepare the remedy. So it's not just to know what is for what, but also how to use it is very important. And you could only know that from being taught and from your own experience and from your study, research. Okay, and it is a very important part of existence. So modern medication is dependent on herbs. Natural medication is also dependent on herbs. All of them are dependent on herbs, and all of them is based on knowledge. So in the heavens is our provisions, right? In the heavens are our provisions. Okay, the whatever comes out of the heavens, it develops and it sustains. If you look at the creation, and the whole of creation goes towards sustaining our life as a human being. Look at it, the whole of creation. This feeding here, that feeding there, that feeding there. All of these things feed into us, okay, for us to benefit from creation. So in the heavens, there's your provision from the rain, which results the vegetation, that is your provision, and also what you are promised. Okay, and also what you are promised, which means that another aspect of the heaven, in the spiritual aspect of it, it contains our promise of having to enter the paradise or not. Okay, because according to the descriptions in the hadith, the heavens, that what we call the Jannah, is above the lower heaven. We exist in the lower heavens, And they said above that is the throne of Allah, and above that is the Firdaus, all the different gardens and things like that. Allah knows best. Okay, but this is what is being pointed out here. So what we are promised is out there for us.
هل أتاك حديث ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين
Has there reached you the story of the honored guests of Abraham?
إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما قال سلام قوم منكرون
When they entered upon him and said, "We greet you with peace," he answered, "And upon you peace. You are a people unknown."
Okay, so then Allah shift the conversation now. Allah shift the conversation and turned to these people and said, has the story reached you about Abraham's honored guest? What we notice here is that Allah just mentioned Abraham, which means that the Arabs knew about Abraham. Okay, they knew about Abraham. And they call the way of life of Abraham Milatul Ibrahim, sorry. Okay, which means the way of life of Ibrahim. So the Arabs knew about Abraham. So Allah said, hasn't the story of Abraham reached you? Abraham is the Imam of our times. Okay, there are certain periods in the creation. We had the period of Adam, and then the period of Noah, and then the period of Abraham. Okay, and part of the sunnah of Abraham is circumcision for men, and plucking the armpits and around the private parts, the hair. All of these are part of the Milatul Abraham, and we follow it. Okay, and in the Bible, you read a lot about Abraham, and that is why they say Abrahamic faith. It's something I don't use because it's a Masonic concept about Abrahamic faith. They know Abrahamic faith because Allah says the only person who really follow Abraham is you people and this prophet, Muslims. Okay, I'm just stretching. So you're not seeing my face, I'm just stretching. Yeah, so Abraham is the father of the Arabs, the great grandfather of the Arabs, and they knew about him. They knew about the Kaaba, right? About the Kaaba being there, about the rites of Hajj, about Hajar. They knew all of these things. So Allah is saying, has that story reached you? You know, because what the Prophet came to teach is the same. Excuse me, just a little cramp I'm getting. What the Prophet came to teach, it is the religion of Abraham, right? Because the Arabs used to say that what the Prophet was teaching is not the religion of their forefathers. Okay? They used to say that Islam is not the religion of their forefathers. So that's why when people tell you that Islam is the religion of the Arabs, you must always tell them, no, the Arabs say that Islam is not their religion. It's not the religion of the Arabs. Okay? It is the religion of the great grandparents of Abraham. And Abraham followed Noah. and Noah followed Adam. So this is our ancestral religion of all humanity. So anytime people tell you, big African like you, and why you following Abrahamic faith? Abraham had nothing to do with we, and it's an Arab religion. No, the Arabs opposed Islam because it was not their religion. Allah called them to Islam, and they make Islam theirs. Okay, so like if you go in Nigeria, Islam is associated with the Hausas and the Fulani people. So that when somebody who's not a Fulani, like an Igbo or a Yoruba or some other tribe, become a Muslim, they just tell you, why are you following the Yoruba? Why are you? Why are you following the Hausa and the Fulani? So just as how we say in Trinidad, Islam is an Indian religion, in Nigeria, they say Islam is a religion of the Hausas and the Fulani. In America, they say Islam is the religion of the Arabs. So every place Islam go, and people took on Islam, like in Europe, right? A lot of Eastern Europeans became Muslims. A lot of them, in Russia, in Czechoslovakia, Poland, you'll be surprised the amount of Muslims. And when you look at a picture of Moscow, right, the capital of Russia, and you see there are some domes, and they are called onion domes. They look like onion. Those domes were part of the mosque of the Tatars, right? And they took it and brought it to Moscow, and it became part of their architect. So there's a lot of Russian Muslims. Okay, there are a lot of white Muslims, Chechens, and all these different type of people, Avars, and all these different people. They are Muslims. And in those areas, when you became a Muslim, they will say you became a Turk. Because the Turks are the one who took Islam to those areas. And also too, in Europe, in the earlies, when you became a Muslim as a white man, they would say that you're going Turk. You're going Turk. So, and that is because these people took on Islam as theirs. And this is what I just try to tell people. We have to take on Islam as ours. Right? Okay, Islamic culture is whatever is good in your culture is Islamic culture. If in your culture you have a day to thank Allah for the produce of the land, okay, that is Islamic. Whatever good in your culture is Islamic. Consider Islamic culture. Islamic culture is not just singing nasheeds and singing in Urdu or singing in Arabic, right? You can sing praises in Allah in a calypso, in a reggae. It doesn't matter. Once it's something good, it is Islamic culture. But we are being fooled to think that Islamic culture is just eating roti and doubles and say wine and all these things. No, that is the how the East Indian practices. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat it. I love wine. I love roti. I love doubles, right? But I know what it is. It is the cuisine of Muslims, right? Who took on Islam, right? So us as black people, descendants of enslaved Africans, what we go have? Cuckoo, right? You go have fish, fried fish, right? But we don't look at fried fish and cuckoo as Islamic, We look at that as something else. What about what is it like again? Beans and pie, macaroni pie. right? We normally cook that on a Sunday. Why? Because people home and they try to put out their best for the Sundays. So if they eat a good meal for the whole week, at least they eat a good meal for Sunday. And that Sunday meal is Islamic, right? Because that is how we express ourselves, right? That's how we come to terms with the economics situation that we had. Okay? So, and these are the things that we have to think about and change our minds. Islam doesn't belong to any specific people. It's the way of life of your father Adam. Right? But it has many different manifestations. Among the Turks, there's a manifestation. Among the African, there's a manifestation. Even among the Chinese, how they write the Arabic, Chinese style. How they build the masjid, Chinese style. Right? Now, if you come to Trinidad and you put up a masjid in the African style, they go say, look, Dina masjid. Why? Because you don't have a dome and you don't have a minaret. You know? But the masjids we know in Trinidad came from India, and it is a Pacific style. It's called the Mughal style. Okay? It's a particular style in architecture, right? But in the Chinese masjid, they are built like pagodas, right? And there's no dome. There's a place called the Kama, yes. I mean, the Azan, like a raised step, as it was in the Prophet Mosque. Prophet Mosque had no minaret. They had he used to go on the highest roof. So, what I'm getting at is that adapt your life, adapt your culture, the good of it. Okay? And our culture is not drunk and disorderly. Old man fed up with me, my friends and my family. Or our culture is not just woman, and rum. You know, because trust me, woman and rum around men, he will misbehave. I ain't care how good he is. Woman and rum, that concoction will make any man misbehave. Okay, but these are the negative aspects of our culture, and as Muslims, we have to avoid that. Okay, we avoid those things. Why? Because it is not part of the morality, right? Because when it's woman and rum, after 9 months is a baby and you're running from the baby. Police have to run you down to take care of the child, right? And at the end of these things, what happens is mostly women that suffer. Eh? It's sad. With all these wars, women that suffer and children. With the inequalities in societies, women that suffer. Okay? Because after the enjoyment, you know, you had sex in a car in the bush, between two cars, at the side of the stadium, and then when the woman get pregnant, and they come and tell you, you know, Harry, you know I'm pregnant. What's the first thing men just say? For who? What do you mean for who? For you? Right? And then the whole thing tumble down. But then too, the women don't learn, because next year they're going to do the same thing over and over. The next month they're going to do the same thing and the same thing and the same thing. And then they have children who come and do the same thing. And those children have grandchildren who do the same thing. So when are we going to break this generational nonsense? Okay? Because we have to break it. So at one flow here, Allah is bringing back the Arabs to Abraham. That is your ancestor. And there were honored guests who came to Abraham. Who are these honored guests? Right? According to the Bible, the Quran doesn't give much information on it. The Quran just said they were honored guests. Okay, but from the people who went before us, the Jews and Christians, we know that the honored guests were angelic beings. And growing up, I know that they said the angels came to visit Abraham, But nowadays, the Christians have gone so far. They said that they are saying now that one of the angels who visit Abraham was Jesus alayhi salam. And so Jesus came as an angel before he came as a man. So they tried to fit in Jesus all over the Old Testament. They tried to fit him in. Anything looking ranking, they tried to die Jesus. Okay? So, but Allah say no. These beings were honored guests, which means they were not normal human beings. They were angels manifesting as human beings. Okay? Angels manifesting as human beings. Some say it was 12 of them, some say it was 10 of them, some say it was 3 of them. The Bible mentions 3. And one of whom was Jibreel alayhi salam. Now, what was their mission? According to the books that went before, okay, their mission was to destroy the people of Lot because of their homosexuality. Okay, because of their rainbow character. I don't want to talk the rainbow bad, but because of their going astray, Allah has punished them. And we know about the punishment of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah has come a byword for disagreement with homosexuality. So this is what the guests were on. And they said that, and continue, and when they entered upon him and said salam, so the angelic beings entered upon Ibrahim alayhi salam, and they said salam. They gave him salam. Okay, so here Allah is teaching us adab. Okay, when you meet people and you enter upon somebody's house, you give your greetings. You just don't come in and sit down. You give the greetings to the house. And Ibrahim returned the salam to them. And then he said, these are unfamiliar people. He didn't recognize them. They were strangers. He didn't recognize them. So some of us don't like to give salams to people we don't know. But from this story of Abraham here, we see that Abraham didn't know them, but he gave them the salams. They give him salams, he returned the salams. So salams is not just for Muslims or who you're good with. They're a horse. So you get them salams, and other people you don't get them salams. It don't work like that. You see, these are people who, I don't know who these people are. This is what Ibrahim is saying in his mind. I don't know. So Allah is telling you what was in Abraham's mind. He don't know these people, but he was courteous. They were courteous, and he was courteous to them. Right? And he applied peace to you strangers. Okay, let's continue. And we'll stop.
Then he went to his family and came with a fat roasted calf.
فقربه إليهم قال ألا تأكلون
And placed it near them. He said, will you not eat?
Okay, so the Islamic culture is a very hospitable culture. If you go to the Middle East, Like when I was in Sudan, and the first place we went to visit somebody, I was feeling hungry, so I started to eat. So the guy was only pulling me, said, "Don't eat, don't eat, no, eat a little bit now." Because every place we go and we stop, we have to eat. So if you fill up your belly in the first stop, in the second and third stop, the people go feel offended because you come to their home and you ain't eat. And you tell them, well, I eat already, you know. They don't want to hear that. Because they are very hospitable people. Muslims, especially in the Middle East, was known for their hospitality. If one of the things that in the past, a lot of non-Muslims became Muslims because of the hospitality of the Muslims. When they come among Muslims, they were fed, they were treated nice. They you know, we didn't stone them, we didn't call them dirty, stinking, dirty kafir. We entertain them, and we give them food to eat, and give them a place to rest, and help them on their way. Okay, that is part of the generosity as Muslims we are supposed to express. And you have it here, the example of Abraham here. So he went back to his family. Okay, now let's just cutting it short, because, and he said, and they brought out a fatted calf. Well, I say let's cut it short, because just imagine he went back to his family, have a little conversation with them, maybe prepare the food, and he maybe went out, Zabadi calf to cook, skin it, chop it up, leave it for the woman to cook. So a lot of things happen in just those two sentences there, right? And then when the woman finished cooking, he went and took the food and brought it to these strangers. Okay? Went and took the food and brought it out to the strangers. And what happened there now?
And he felt from them apprehension. They said, "Fear not," and gave him good tidings of a learned boy.
فأقبلت امرأته في صرة فصكت وجهها وقالت عجوز عقيم.
And his wife approached with a cry of alarm and struck her face and said, "I am a barren old woman."
Okay, so he brought the food to them, but being angelic beings, although they were in human form, they did not eat. And that's what I tell you, when you go to these people's homes and you don't eat, they feel offended. And it's the same thing with Abraham here. So he placed the food before them and he said, "Won't you eat?" Why you ask them that? Because he didn't see their hands moving towards the food. Because being travelers, and you know, most travelers are hungry. So if you have to wait till the animal is prepared and dressed and cooked, and you brought it out to them and they don't want to eat, right? So he said, "Won't you eat?" And he felt a little apprehension, why these men don't want to eat. Do they have a evil plot against me? Why they are not taking, or enjoying my benevolence and generosity to them? And they said, and they sensed that apprehension in Abraham, that he began to look at them in a suspicious manner. So they said, do not be afraid. He said, "Do not be afraid." And on top of that, they gave him tidings, okay, of the birth of a learned son. So during that encounter, they gave him tidings of a son that will be learned. And so in order to cool him down and to take away his anxiety about them, they said that, "Look, we come and we are giving you glad tidings that you're going to have a son that is very learned." And who is that son? And that son was Ishaq. Okay? Who we call Isaac. Okay? So, this is what is happening here. He both have a son. And his wife, you know, how women are, you know, when you have guests, they're straining the ears to find out what they're talking about inside the room. They want to pick up on, you know, what we call macroing. Yeah, you know, they're listening to hear what you're saying, what's going on inside there. And she couldn't help it. She came forward and said, you know, and you know, like she speaking loud, and she slapping her face, you know. Me, an old woman like me, a barren old woman like me, you know, how I go have a son. Okay, so Allah allowed Mary to have a son without a father. Allah created Adam without male or female, without a mother or a father, and Allah created Isaac from a woman that was already barren. So all of these things are part of the manifestation of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So we'll stop there. So this is what happened. She doubted that very much. You know, how can I have a son and I'm barren? As a barren, I'm a Jew. I'm a barren old woman. You know, what's going on here? Are these men pulling our legs? You know, are these men trying to throw us off? You know, for some other, they have a mission, but they don't want to tell us about it as yet. You know, what's happening here? So, to make Ibrahim at ease, they gave him that glad tidings. His wife heard it and she couldn't help herself. She came out and she had to respond. And she was more amazed than happy, you know, trying to figure out how this thing is going to happen, that she's going to have this son. And Allah mentioned Ishaq, as a joyous news, because part of the meaning of the Hebrew name Isaac means to laugh. You know, when the woman heard, in another part of the Quran, when the woman heard the news, she laughed. You know? So, in the verse, Allah hidden that meaning, joyous news. And that he was also a learned scholar in the deen of Islam. And he was also a prophet. Okay, so these little things, you know, we used to call it long time Zeppo. You know, these little indications in the Quran, Allah throw an indication, but it's for you to pick it up. And they gave him joyous news. And that is exactly what Isaac means. And Allah gave another meaning. I mean, Allah gave another quality of Isaac, that he'll be a learned son. Okay, he'll be somebody who will benefit the family and benefit his nation. So we'll stop there. Any questions?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. I'm going back to verse 18 with the forgiveness, right, of someone who did wrong, who did you wrong.
Yeah.
If somebody does you wrong and you don't know who it is, could you openly just give forgiveness?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Because sometimes somebody might do you wrong, right? And you just forgive them, you know, without even before they reach you.
Even if you don't know the person, you don't know who it is doing it, but you just say forgive whoever.
Yeah. Yeah, you can forgive the person. But what I'm saying too is that somebody might do you wrong who you know. They say, okay, I said I forgive them, yes. I just forgive them, yes. You know, so they don't need to come to ask you again. Okay? Because you already forgiven them. And if
So
somebody does not
that puts them in the clear for the hereafter, for the judgment.
Yeah. You have no rights. You give up your rights already. You don't forgive the person. You have no claim against him or her. Because you already forgive them. Any other questions? Okay, one of the questions you may ask later on is, where was Ishmael? Right? Because remember, Ishmael was born to Abraham and Hagar. And Ishmael was born before Isaac. Okay? So Ishmael was already born. But this message was more towards Sarah. Because Sarah had given Abraham Hagar as a wife, to be his wife, because she couldn't make children. Then the angels come and tell her she will have a child. So she laughed. And then become concerned. Okay, so Isaac was already born. Ishmael was already born. Okay? Because you notice, this same incident is mentioned in the Bible. But you know what they say? Your only son. They put only in front of Isaac. And they throw out Ishmael, the Jews. So part of the whole Arab and Jewish or Israelite conflict came from polygamy, you know. Right? The two men, okay, and the problems of the family, and some people in the family, not Sarah and them per se, but other people in the family, they feel that Isaac should be the one in charge. And some people feel Ishmael. But according to the Hebrew tradition, the elder son is the person who's supposed to be in charge. That's why when Abraham died, Isaac couldn't bury him by himself. He had to wait until Ishmael came to bury the father. That's the culture. Okay, so just by that, even Isaac recognized that Ishmael was the firstborn. But the Jews say Isaac is the firstborn, and all the promises of Abraham, okay, are those promises that goes to Isaac, and then it goes to Jesus, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. So they claim the Holy Land alone is theirs, and not counting the other children of Abraham. And if you ever wonder, in the Bible it says that in Genesis that Allah told Abraham that I will bless those who bless thee, and because of you, mankind will be blessed. And we are the only religious community in history who asks Allah to Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Ibrahim. We send peace and blessings on Ibrahim. We are the only community that do that. And that is a fulfillment of exactly what Allah told Abraham in the Bible, that I will bless the whole of mankind because of you, and through you the mankind will be blessed. Which means that the children of Abraham were the people to carry the message of Islam to the rest of the world. Okay, and the first people who were chosen to do that were the Israelites. And they failed. And then Allah raised a world prophet to carry that message. And it falls on the Muslims now, not just one section of Abraham's family. Okay, and all the places that Allah told Abraham he will inherit, those are the places that his children inherit. His children from Isaac, his children from Ishmael, and his children from Keturah. Right? So all of the children of Abraham is in that contested area that they have conflict. But one section of the family is only for them alone. And that is the genesis. That is the root part of the conflict. Any questions before we close? Okay, no questions. So we close. Thanks again for coming out. I appreciate your presence. And again, I would like you to keep inviting people to come out also and benefit, from this class. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Until tomorrow.
Walaikum assalam.
Alaikum assalam.